Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, where using my SKG discount code leads to a 25% off across several products, making a Windows 10 serial key only $16. After the payment, you'll receive the key in your account, and all you need to do is to introduce it in your Windows settings, and BAM! You have an activated system. Have you recently been having problems like stutters, black screens, USBs not functioning properly, everything strange in a computer, then you don't know what's happening, even maybe driver problems? Well, then this is the video for you, and it may also tell you what's the problem with your computer. This is based on an experience that I had some weeks ago in my girlfriend's computer, where I had the computer for quite some time, and it almost since the beginning it had those weird issues like random crashes, random blue screens, random black screens.
My eyes! Baby! Oh, okay! It's okay! It's okay! No! They're doing it!
The system would just boot up and then restart to boot up again fine, and it would even sometimes give me some driver errors. Now, I tested the GPU previously on my build, which is the RX 570. I tested that GPU and the GPU was working perfectly fine. I stress tested the CPU as well, the Ryzen 5 2600 on the Prime 95, and it was fine as well. I stress tested the RAM and it was fine as well. So everything seemed stable and everything is working fine, but the computer just had some random restarts from time to time, and it also started to have some really odd issues. Let's call it that, odd. Because the USBs would function properly, the mouse would function properly, the same for the keyboard, the same for almost everything, but not the same for the Wi-Fi adapter. So the Wi-Fi adapter would be constantly turning off and on from time to time. So imagine from every 10 or 20 minutes it would turn off the internet and then connect it back off again. This was an issue. Didn't matter the USB that I used it on, the USB port, it would still do this. If not 20 minutes, like 1 hour or something, but it would still indeed disconnect the internet. And the problem was, it was not the CPU, it was not everything, it was this. Yes, it was the motherboard. You may think it's not true, you may think it's just me telling you bullshit, but no, it was indeed the motherboard. Although the motherboard seemed like it was working fine, well, it wasn't, and it was causing stutters, and even the VRMs. I even tested the motherboard, and no, it was not thermal throttling. The VRMs were working fine, everything was working fine. I even reinstalled the BIOS, I did everything I could, but the motherboard was just buggy or some shit. As soon as I changed the motherboard, those Wi-Fi errors stopped, no more crashes, no more blue screens, the computer booted just fine at the first time, everything was working wonderfully. And yes, although the motherboard seemed like it was working perfectly fine, because the games were working fine, everything was working fine, the computer I could do stress tests without any single problem, well, it wasn't, and it was making those issues happen. So take in consideration that if you have problems like lots of stutters, if you have random black screens and you don't know why, if you have random blue screens and you don't know why as well, maybe the motherboard can be the issue. It may seem like it's working perfectly fine, but in some cases it may not be that. So yeah. And I'm doing this video because some people would automatically put the blame on the drivers. And I knew that the drivers weren't the issue with the RX 570. I knew it. I just knew it because I tested the card before. It was working perfectly fine in several systems. It was not the card. But some people with some systems, they will automatically blame the drivers because they don't know more. And In this case, it wasn't the drivers, it wasn't the CPU, it wasn't anything, it was the motherboard. And in some cases, it may be an unstable overclock, an unstable CPU or memory overclock that just shows itself in some extreme scenarios. And it will give you indeed a driver issue, but the problem causing that driver issue isn't the GPU. Can be the motherboard like this, can be your unstable RAM OC, even just if you are using XMP, it may still be unstable and you may need a bit more voltage, or even an unstable CPU overclock that you may think it is stable, but it isn't, okay? And that's one of the issues that can indeed appear when you think it is the GPU drivers, and in most scenarios it isn't, like this one. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Let me know if you had some of these issues with some motherboards in the past, or if you are having these issues and you may think it's the motherboard or not. I just want to know. And this video is also a placeholder for the next big video that it's coming, which is the AMD innovations, history and innovations since 1984, and I'm telling you, I've already spent lots and lots of hours in this video, and I just edited 7 of the 43 minutes, so yeah, it's gonna take a long time. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one.